Do 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 do. Hey, welcome to Pretty Sketchy Podcast. This is Corey. I'm doing a little bit of a different one today, more of a review. But it's just me flying solo, and just something I really wanted to touch on. I recently came into possession of. Hang on, let me just get there. Here we go. See, that might be giving too much away. There we go. A beautiful Microsoft Surface Book. Now, full disclosure, I actually won this in a competition. So let's just say Microsoft isn't supporting this podcast, but I just wanted to say, get it out there. I didn't actually pay for this. It was given to me by Microsoft, but it wasn't. It was a prize in a competition. It wasn't like they were saying, "Hey, why don't you take this and put it on your show," or anything like that. All that aside, I just wanted to give it a basic review from an artist's perspective, and I'll be using this on the show in future for probably coloring, possibly a little bit of inking. Who knows? We'll see how it all pans out. But essentially, I just wanted to sort of show some of the features and stuff which are great from an artist's perspective. You might be an artist who's thinking about getting a Surface Pro or a Surface Book or something like that. You're not sure what to do, or you're tossing up between that and maybe an iPad Pro and the Pencil or something. Which, to be fair, I haven't had a lot of experience with, but I can give you my opinion on that as well. So essentially, what you see is essentially what you get. It's a beautifully crafted laptop. It's really light. It feels, I guess it feels a lot like the MacBook Pros, in that you can feel it's really rigid. Like when you pick it up from a corner, there's no play in it at all. It's just really solid. I'm not sure what sort of alloys they make. I probably should have done some research before this, but I don't know what sort of alloys and stuff they use to make it. But it's certainly impressive to touch. I quite like the keyboard. It's a low profile keyboard, like you might expect. It's definitely better quality than my experience with Surfaces in the past, with the keyboard case sort of thing. Definitely feels a little bit more permanent than those. A little bit more clicky, I guess, the keys. Great giant sort of touchpad. I'm not sure exactly what I just did there, but whatever was on my screen's now gone. It's a big glass touchpad, very responsive. In fact, in some ways, I find it a little too responsive when I'm web surfing. I tend to always shrink and expand the page accidentally by touching with two fingers. But that's just something I've got to get used to. Keyboard's backlit as well. Might be hard to see here, but there we go. There's this beautifully engineered hinge at the back here, which is interesting because it actually makes the PC close in a kind of a strange way. It's hard to see because I've got a mounted webcam there, but you can see the gap there. This comes into play a little bit later. I'll demonstrate later as far as... Oops, hang on. Let's get the cable out of there. As far as being a bit of a benefit for artists. But we'll get into that a little bit more later. It just has the feel of an impeccably designed device. I really like it. Here's a cool feature. It has facial recognition as well, which is a Windows 10 feature, but it seems to work really well on the device too, to log you back in and stuff like that. So essentially, I mean, the reason anybody gets a Surface or a Surface Book outside of a regular laptop, as far as I'm concerned, is its ability to use the Surface Pen, which, to my mind, is probably the best stylus, I guess, interactive means of drawing on a device. You have your Wacoms and your Cintiqs and all that sort of stuff that people use, and they're really good. There's no one's denying that, but it's just this sort of adds a little bit more, I guess, portability, and the fact that you are drawing directly on the screen, it just seems to add something. Like I always had trouble with digital art in that I felt disconnected using a separate tablet from you know, like the connection for me has always been between paper and pencil, and disconnecting the drawing surface from the screen was always a little bit too much to get my head around, to be perfectly honest. And I made do, and I used them just like everyone else did. But there's something about it that never sort of gelled with me. Hang on. Oh, that's why we zoomed right in. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I mean, obviously you could see there the touchscreen responsiveness is incredible. It's a powerful machine, which is more than powerful enough to run what I'm running here, which is Sketchbook Pro by Autodesk. I've used it with Photoshop and stuff as well. I tend to like the tools a little bit better in Sketchbook. They got some great perspective tools and things like that, which I find really useful. But I guess the big thing, and if you're watching this, you probably already know this, but the thing that makes this such an impressive device is the mechanical hinge through here and the removable screen. So I can hold down this button and the screen's now detached. It doesn't fall away either. It's still mounted there, but it just means you can take it off. And there you have, essentially something pretty similar to, I guess, your Surface Pros or something like that. It's just a completely standalone device now. I can take that with me. It's incredibly light. Again, it's really rigid. It feels comfortable in your hand. You don't feel like you're going to drop it or anything like that. But what you do lose when you remove it and put in tablet mode is a little bit of the horsepower that's actually built into your keyboard here. And there's, some functionality and stuff like that as well. But essentially, that's not really too much of an issue, because what you do is you take basically your Surface tablet here, you install it back on the dock backwards, close it down, and sometimes you got to flip it like this. And now I've got the full horsepower of the Surface Book in tablet form. And admittedly, that's a chunky tablet. But it doesn't feel awkward. Like walking around again with this and, sitting on your lap and drawing and doing things with it, it doesn't feel like you're sort of losing something, by adding that extra mass to it. It actually, if anything, it makes it a little bit more comfortable. And what we talked about before, how the hinge doesn't close flat, it actually creates a little bit of an angle on the surface here, which is hard to see from above, I guess. But it's sort of like, how do you describe it? It's sort of got a chamfer to it, I guess. What did I minimize? Hang on. Might have opened the wrong one there. There we go. That's something else I'm working on. Sorry about this. I've got two versions of Sketchbook, which is actually, to be honest, another thing that I've been meaning to talk about. Where I feel that the Surface has an advantage over your MacBook Pros and that kind of thing is it's a Windows 10 PC and a pretty good one too. It's not just set up for things like playing high end games and things like that. It does what it does, and it does what it does well, which isn't everything. But it's got the ability to run your suite of apps that you get on sort of like your Microsoft Store or whatever. But also you can just download and install any Windows 10 app. So originally what happened was when I first got my Surface 3, the first thing I did was went to the store and found Autodesk Sketchbook, installed that, and I was looking at it going, well, it doesn't have the features that the desktop version has, and that's kind of bothering me. It's a little bit stripped back. It feels very portable. It doesn't feel like a complete solution. So then it occurred to me, this is a Windows 10 PC. I can just install the desktop version. And I did, and it runs really well. Like, there is a little bit of toing and froing of features in that, like the tablet version of the app is much better at palm rejection and things like that. So when you're laying your hand on there and drawing, you're not interfering. You're drawing with your palm and things like that. Whereas the desktop version at that time didn't have such, because it was really designed to be used with regular tablets and things like that, regular graphics tablets like your Wacoms and whatnot. It seems like they've since fixed that. I've been through some settings since I've installed it on this one, and I don't have that problem anymore with the palm rejection and things like that. I haven't gone too deeply into Photoshop with it and really checked out how that works over there, but I'm assuming there's solutions for it across the board. But what I'm getting at is, with an iPad Pro, you're really stuck with what versions of the app they put out for the Apple Store. This way I can install anything. If I want to install WinZip for whatever reason, or WinRAR or something like that, bam, I can just put it on there. I don't have to find an appized version of that software. I can just run it, and you'd be surprised how often that comes up when you really start sort of getting into it and using it for a lot of different things. You just want that compatibility that you just get from a PC, and not some app-driven device. So getting further into it. Let me see here. That's sorry if this is a little bit laggy. I had to work out a bit of a roundabout way of actually streaming from the tablet to my OBS capture software, which was quite an ordeal. The biggest problem, I've tried everything. I've tried outputs. I've tried wireless Microsoft adapter into an Elgato capture card and stuff, and nothing seemed to work because the resolution of this is so high. It's like 3,000 by 2,000 pixels or something similar. And every time I tried to output it to OBS, it would just come out as a black screen. It just couldn't comprehend that kind of resolution. And I didn't want to reduce the resolution of the Surface Book because that affects how you can draw on it and stuff like that. And you want this big, beautiful resolution, bright screen. You don't want to be drawing on something crippled because you need to transmit. So the solution I came up with is I'm actually live streaming through an app called Real VLC. It's actually going via the internet, but surprisingly, the lag is actually pretty minimal. But it's basically, I'm remote accessing my Surface Book from my Windows 10 laptop, which is doing all of the capturing. It's just grabbing the signal from the internet and displaying it. And it's doing a pretty good job. Like, you lose a certain amount of quality, but it's not too bad. Sorry about that. My dogs are just going crazy. To give you an idea of the Surface Pen here, and what it can do, I'm just using a basic pencil tool here. Let me just get a new layer here. All right. And to give you an idea of the dynamics and stuff like that, you can go super light, through to dark, through to thick, depending on how hard you press. Now, I guess one of the features that it doesn't have compared to the iPad Pro is you can't do the sideways shading sort of thing that they have there. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's plenty of custom brushes and tools and stuff you can get to emulate that sort of thing. And that is, having used it once or twice, it's a nice little touch, particularly if you want something that's finished in what looks like a graphite pencil style. But it's really kind of a gimmick, at the end of the day. Let's have a look what else I got. I haven't set up my custom brushes in this yet, so I'm basically working with the defaults here. But let's just say choose that, choose a color. I don't know. You can really get some interesting effects with the dynamics of the brush. Like, did you see? I mean, you can go from super fine to basically just huge splodges of essentially paint. And then the cool thing is you can flip it over and it becomes an eraser, which is kind of intuitive. Although I have noticed in the past a couple of times that it won't snap back, which is just a little bit of a glitch thing that might be. It could have something to do with Sketchbook. It could have something to do with the pen. I'm not 100% sure. What you're not seeing on, I guess, the stream here is the richness of color, but that's not indicative of any particular app or program. That's just how it, how it runs. But it's really washed out on the stream. But you're getting the idea anyway. So, and as you can see, there's no perceivable lag. I'm doing pretty sharp, fast lines here. What else have I got? Let's see. Blending brushes. What's this? Pastels and charcoals. It's really big. Let's try some white. That's pretty realistic, I'd imagine. It's sort of blending in with the paint too, which is cool. But again, we're really getting into the details of more to do with Sketchbook, less about the actual tablet. But that's the beauty of it. Once you start working, the tablet sort of fades into the background, and it becomes about the app you're using, which is exactly what you really want. Like, if I was sitting here worrying about what the actual PC was doing, it'd be missing the point. You really just want to focus on your tools and your art, and not have to think about all that other crap. So if the device is doing that, then it's doing its job. But see, I'm quite comfortable here resting my hand on there. I'm not affecting the canvas at all. Just a basic eye here. I mean, I just honestly, I can't recommend it enough. And paired with the right app, an app you're comfortable with, and there's plenty out there. There's more apps than there are artists. But it's, you just got to do some experimenting, figure out what you want out of out of an app, and just go from there. But at the end of the day, I feel like no matter what app you choose, well, first of all, unless it's like one designed specifically for Mac, the device itself will actually work, because that's what it does. It's a Windows 10 PC. But, the device itself it'll work beautifully and seamlessly with it. So essentially that's all I wanted to get at. Hope it's given you a little bit more insight into what the Surface Books can do. Again, this was not paid for by Microsoft. This is just my personal opinions. So definitely go into a store and give one a try. Have a look at the Surface Pen, or try one. Someone else you know's got one, maybe. But I love mine, and I'll be using it. You'll see it in the future as well on the actual show. So cool. Thanks for tuning in.